Yield, say something.
What's going on, everybody?
Alex, say something.
What's up, players? What's up?
Everybody want to hit record?
Yeah.
All right. 5 seconds of silence. Five, four, three,
Three,
two,
two, one.
And welcome everybody to the Trophy Horse podcast. This is episode 651. And as you can tell, Tricky is not here tonight. At least if you're on Twitch, you can see that Tricky is not here tonight. And therefore, Matt will once again be hosting for you. And with me, as always, not Garth, but Alex. What's up, Alex?
Party on, Matt.
Party
Party
on.
on, Alex.
Party on, Alex.
Oh, I guess I should have. Hold on, let's try that again. Party on, Matt.
Party on, Alex.
There we go. I fucked that up the first time. It's been a while since I've seen Wayne's World. Matt, I'm just happy as a pig in slop that you're hosting again, and yeah, glad. I'm psyched to be here because we get to talk about video games.
Well, you know, last week got some very good feedback, and well, that's a new thing.
Well, you don't usually get good feedback?
No, well, yes, that too. No, Tricky is in chat and subscribed with subscribe with Prime, and there's a new sound effect going on in the system, so that threw me off. But what didn't throw me off is Yield is here too. What's up, Yield?
It's been a busy weekend, but it's been a good weekend so far.
That sounds like a man who's gotten some stuff done. I bet Yield was out Christmas shopping this weekend.
No, I had to go run one niece to somewhere for a saxophone festival, went somewhere else to watch another niece do her collegiate dance. Yeah, it's been a busy weekend. Now I spent today and I'm going to spend tomorrow doing a whole heck of a lot of nothing because I took a 4-day weekend.
Ooh, fancy. I spent today, I did a Costco run, which got all sorts of good stuff from Costco. Then I came home, I meal prepped, I packaged up all the good stuff I got, and then I spent the rest of my day trying to play video games. Trying. Failing at certain points, but trying.
Well, hopefully it wasn't just today that you got to sit down and relax and enjoy some video games. Hopefully you got to play some throughout the week, Matt.
I did, and we'll definitely talk about that in our What Did We Play section. But, you know, going to Costco today sparked my creative juices, especially the juices that involve cooking, because, you know,
is that because you got so many snacks? Did you eat so many snacks,
well,
Matt?
You know what, so I got the 2 jars of peanut butter, because I always got to have peanut butter in the house. But
good man. You
know what I see there that I absolutely love, and it's only like $12, is that
Moose Munch.
The what?
Moose Munch.
No, not that. They have the
Moose Tracks? Moose Tracks
no,
cereal?
I don't.
Moose Tracks ice cream?
I don't like the Moose Track stuff. I avoid them.
Oh man, Yield almost coughed up a lung here.
I know. I'm surprised too. The Cinnabon foils that they have, like it's $12. You get 6 big old Cinnabons, and it's delicious. I love them.
You know, I'm surprised they don't have a Cinnabon cereal.
I feel like it would be disgusting.
Well, I mean, they have Reese Cup cereal and Oreo cereal. Like, you don't think like little tiny mini cinnamon buns in milk wouldn't be good?
I hate the Reese's cereal.
You count Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Man, what do you like?
Well, I like Cheerios.
Okay.
No, you know what I like? I really like Honey Bunches of Oats.
Okay.
That's a sweet little cereal that I like. I also like cream of wheat and loading it up with sugar and vanilla extract.
Does that destroy the benefit of cream of wheat, Matt?
Who said I'm eating it for benefits?
Well, you do you, but I've always thought if you just wanted some sugar, like a big old bowl full of sugar, there were better avenues than, cream of wheat. That's like eating a grapefruit and putting sugar on your grapefruit and be like, man, I really like this sugary. There are better fruits you could be eating. That's all I'm saying.
And yet people do that.
I'm eating healthy.
Well, I never said I eat healthy. I was on a work call the other day and there was a message that said, during the holidays, most Americans tend to not eat well. And I said, joke's on you. I don't eat well all year round. I don't need the holidays as an excuse.
Matt's not part of that survey. Matt's part of his own survey. But I have a feeling like most Americans, it's like, do you only poll Americans during the holidays? Because I figure that if you polled them throughout the year, you would find that Americans eat like shit all the time.
Yeah, well, I had gone to my doctor for my physical one year, and she looked at me and was like, all this stuff we eat is just bad for us. I'm like, should I just stop eating then? Because I feel like that's what you're implying.
She's like, have you heard of carrots, Matthew?
Yes, delicious. Unfortunately, they're also loaded with sugar and a lot of calories. So,
they're carrots. I mean, they're naturally occurring sugars.
Yeah, and if you believe the doctors, none of them are good for you anyways. But what is good for us is updated trophy counts. So Tricky is at level 960 with 33,979 platinums with I fucked that up again. 33,979 trophies and a total of 980 platinums. Alex?
I am level 514, total trophy count of 10,334 trophies, and a platinum count of 184 in 183 games. This was updated, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, spoiler, Tricky, who threatened to beat me to a platinum trophy first on my next game, which would have been this past game I played, did not, because I got a platinum trophy this week in the game that Tricky should have beat me to the platinum for, and he didn't. So that's for you, Tricky.
I hear a round of excuses coming next week.
I mean, Tricky has a good reason to not be playing games a lot recently, but he knew all this stuff was coming up. He knew he was going to have to deal with a lot, and he still made the comment. So, I'm not going to say that I'm shoving Tricky's face in it, but I'm just saying, Tricky, don't forget who you're messing with. You're messing with Alex. And you don't forget how many platinums I got last year and how I can reel them off if I really want to.
You mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Yeah, or you mess with the wildcat and you get the claws. It's more apropos here in Kentucky than them Longhorns down in Texas. Matt, I'm sorry, I'm speaking sports to you.
I tuned out. What's going on?
People also eat very unhealthy at sporting events.
I
all
don't
have something in common.
I eat unhealthy before sporting events because I can't afford eating unhealthy at sporting events.
Really? Not even like a hot dog or some nachos?
No. So before we'd go to Giants games, we'd go to this place called Rutt's Hut, where it was deep fried hot dogs with onion rings. That was a tradition.
I'd eat that.
It is delicious. They're called rippers because when they plump up, they just burst. Speaking of bursting, Yield, what's your trophies at?
So I am sitting at a level 521 with a trophy count of 10730 and a platinum count of 200. And I am primed for 5 by next Sunday. Actually, there'll be 5 tomorrow, but.
I am 300 levels less than Yield, which is just funny. I couldn't believe that's exactly 300 levels lower. And yet, my trophy count is much less at 1,328 and 0 platinums. But let's see, I did get a achievement in Battlefield 2042, level 15. It's called Making Dunn Proud, I guess.
Nicely
that's
done.
Supposed to be something. I don't know. Sid is level...
Did Yoda write that trophy list?
Well, apparently Dunn is proud.
Yes.
Oh, you mean D-U-N-N. Okay,
Yes.
Gotcha. I thought there was some messed up syntax going on there.
I see Mr. Joe P in the chat just saying y'all just crippled your team for the next 8 seasons. And Matt for Trophy Whore of the Year. So Tricky and Joe are going back and forth about the Rangers sucking and whatnot. But Tricky did want me to make sure everybody was aware why he wasn't here tonight. And it's because he's heartbroken that his captains keep getting traded. So sorry.
Wait, who got
Tricky.
traded? Who got traded?
Captain, I don't know, Rangers something. He's heartbroken about
it. I mean, you pay some attention to hockey, right, Matt?
Yeah.
You're a Devils fan, but
yes. Don't ask me who the starting lineup is.
I'm not asking who the starting lineup is, but all right, whatever. Do you know who the goalkeeper is?
No.
Fair enough.
He's the one who wears the face mask.
He's the one with all the pads.
He's the one in it next to the goal, looking at the other team. Tricky says Truba got traded.
Who? Tuba?
Truba.
I don't know who the fuck that is. At least the Panera guy didn't get traded. The bread guy.
What's not being traded is Sid's trophies at level 120 with 340 total trophies and 4 platinums. So without Tricky here this week, we are not doing the musical challenge because Matt don't play that game. Especially since I think, 3.5? Because I got a 0.5 pity. Well, Joe...
You're number one in our hearts, Matt.
Yeah, well, it's just number one in a lot of things, just not what I want to be. So, with that said, let's talk about what we've been playing. Gil, do you want to start us up?
Okay, so, played some Helldivers 2 this week. We're working on kind of helping the main campaign, mainly just kind of earning some medals and some collecting some super samples and working towards finishing the latest war bond. I'm pretty sure I played some Farm Simulator 19 for a bit. Fired up World of Warship Legends the other day. They have they had a free Pearl Harbor Remembrance campaign, and they have an end of year campaign that was free that you had to collect it by the 16th. So I was working on those a little bit the other day. Played some Rocket. Well, Alex and I attempted to play some Rocket League. We just got some crappy teammates. I finished out my weekly Saturday morning, and it went way better.
I turned around on Thursday to see Yield and Goal and our teammates smashing into him, the various teammates smashing into him at the goal. And there were copious amounts of what a saves and trolling within the team that I wasn't a part of, but Yield really was.
I was letting loose.
Yield was going at it with. It was like Theseus in the Minotaur. And Yield was looking to conquer those beasts on Thursday.
Yeah. So I fired up some Bombfest on Saturday with Homer and Prepare to Die or Scum. And they helped me get the 1 4-player trophy that I needed, and then helped me get a few other trophies. So now I'm down to just a couple of trophies. That's one of the 5 games I have ready to platinum tomorrow. Fired up last day of June. I picked it up on I think it was a Black Friday sale for like $4. Knocked it out in like 3 days, 100%ed it. It was a nice little game. Definitely didn't see what was coming until it was coming, but it was a fun little, good story. Been also dove into Treasure Hunter Simulator. The Brain 76 turned me on into that, and I've just about got that game licked too. And I also fired up Mutant Football League.
Ooh.
And that game is freaking fun.
Just like the old Genesis games, it was very much needed that something like that came out. And I only hope that they do a hockey, obviously.
So my brother and I fired it up. You can play up to 4 players. My brother and I played on the same team playing against the computer, and my brother's like, I got to buy this, and instantly pulled out his phone and bought it. It's on sale right now for like $3.75. So he picked it up, and I played that for a bunch Saturday after everybody went home going, this is fun. This is a football game I need. So I think that's about everything I've been diving into. There may have been another one, but I can't remember. So
you know there's a Farm Simulator 24 out, right?
Oh yeah.
I saw it. Are you gonna be diving into that?
I don't know. Whenever I finish 19, I'm going to take a break from the Farm Simulator games. As much as I've enjoyed playing what I've played, it is quite the grind. Right now, I'm farting with 19 enough to get my 100 missions completed. And by missions, you help another farmer do their field, whether that be plowing it, planting it, fertilizing it, harvesting it. So I'm working on that one. And when I get that done, I'm going to go to the guide, and there's a way that you can instantly get $10 million into your bank account, that's another trophy. And so
that sounds like a scheme.
Well, it kind of is. You're supposed to, if I remember right, you like open as many online games as you can, which is like 5 or 6. And then you tell the game to combine it, and it'll combine them all to one game. And when it does, you end up with like over $10 million in your bank account, and the trophy pops. And so I'm going to do that to get that trophy. And then I'll have the money to buy at least a farmland big enough that I can quickly get the 100 acres of harvesting, planting, and fertilizing, and get that done. And then I can hopefully knock the platinum out relatively quickly after that. But I've enjoyed what I've played the game, I guess you would say legit. And I got well over 100 hours into it, and I'm just kind of like, I'm ready to be done.
Yield, when it comes time for the spring and for you to mow a lawn, you will be a beast at it. No one will be able to stop you.
Yep, that is true.
Or overtake you as MVP of cutting the grass.
That is
Got
true.
all this practice in.
I have plenty of practice.
I did want to ask you before we move on. Sorry, Matt. I had a moment there and I hesitated. Have they announced a new war bond yet? Because I know the Truth Enforcers is the latest one, but are they doing any more before the year's end?
I don't think so. I haven't seen anything on the socials about a new war bond coming.
They've usually come out mid-month, so I haven't seen anything.
They can take a little break, and I'll be happy with that, because I haven't really played a lot of Helldivers recently, or any at all, except to collect the major order rewards. So yeah, that doesn't. Obviously, I hope they continue to support the game, but if they didn't put out another war bond for a bit, I wouldn't be mad about it.
I'll tell you what. So I've been playing on my own because none of the other guys have been playing. I've been playing level 6, so that way I can at least get 2 to 3 super samples. Right? It never fails. I'll get the super samples. I'll complete my objective, and before I can get on the shuttle, I get ran over like a freight train. And I'm just like, I just lost my super samples.
That sounds like my experience.
So honestly, I'm just like, they really cranked up the difficulty on 6s. Because it used to be, it was challenging, but it wasn't, I won't say it wasn't hard, but you could get yourself in a pickle if you wasn't paying attention. Now you can get yourself in a pickle just cause.
It probably went hand in hand with them putting super samples in the mix for the level 6. That's probably when they did update.
I want to say no, because we specifically were playing 6s for the super samples because we didn't want to play 7s because 7 was so difficult. But, just to break into the fact that, yes, I played Helldivers 2 as well this week because I wanted to get the one super sample I needed for an upgrade. And, you know, when you got 2 Bile Titans spawning, plus an Impaler, plus a heavy supercharger, it really makes you think, okay, they tapped up the difficulty a little bit on this, because it was never like that.
I had one. I was waiting for the Pelican to land. I was fighting, you know, I had the wave was coming, so I'm fighting them off. I threw some stuff out. Finally, I'm getting overran, so I you know, retreat, so to speak. I run around the landing zone as the Pelican's landing. I'm like, all right, I got this. Pelican lands. I come up. I go in between the ship and the engine, and I'm going to cut through, make a 180, and in I go, and we're getting out of here, right? I make the turn, and the bots lit me up like a Christmas tree. I had my personal shield on. I'm like, I've got this. As soon as I turned, my dude fell over, and I was like, "Are you serious?"
I'll match you there. I was defending up. I was defending at the top of the hill as the Pelican was landing. A charger knocked me back into the landing path of the Pelican.
I got
instant death. Instant death.
Oh.
See, that's just funny. That's like you can't get mad about that.
Yes.
That's just funny. But it's just interesting because you guys talk about like your focus to super samples, which I get they're the most rare of the samples. But I had like I could always buy 2 upgrades based on the super samples I had compared to the rare samples, which I always struggled to get because you had to get like 200 in a lot of cases for an upgrade. So I would have like 50, 60 super samples ready to upgrade, and I would be working towards the 200 rares because the rares, honestly, to me, were the hardest to get of all the samples. Even if they were less rare than the super samples, I always could stock up compared to the upgrades, the amount that were required for the upgrades. I could always stock up much better on those than I could of the rares.
Well, so
I'm good on super samples. I don't need more super samples.
There's 2 parts to that, and one part is because of the cost of rares on upgrades. You know, you're capped at, I think, was it 250 or something like that? Something silly.
250 on the rares.
And therefore, when upgrades are costing you 150, 200, you know, it takes you much longer to build them up because you're only getting 15 if you're efficient, or if you're lucky. If you're efficient, maybe you get like 4 or 5. But then the next part of that is super samples. You know what to look for. You look for the rock. You find the rock, you get your super samples. Rare samples, you kind of have to work your way around to those points of interest to really grab them. And if you're not looking out for them or you're rushing from point to point, you know, the rock stands out more to me than some of the points of interest.
I mean, that's true, but I think that's kind of a hole in their economy they've always had. If I can, you know, get to max or have, you know, multiple upgrades worth of common samples and super samples, all while I'm like, it's taking me 2x, 3 times as long to collect rares, then maybe you need to reduce the cost of rares to like 150 for everything. You know, I don't think it needs to cost as much, or 100, because it only takes you it takes like 250 for commons and then 25 for super samples. So I really think they need to look at lowering the rare samples and as far as upgrading stuff,
or increasing the cap. I'd be fine with increasing the cap as well.
Yeah, but the only problem with that is none of us play as much to ever go too far beyond the cap, right?
Not
like
right
we're not
now.
We're not pouring hundreds of hours into the game anymore to where we're going to be banking rares like it's raining.
Yeah, you're right. No, not now.
So it'd be a little bit too late for that. In the beginning, yes, but they still haven't up. You know, you can only still get 250 war bond medals at a time. They haven't upped that, so I don't think they're even gonna. I don't have any hope that they'll up the capacity for the samples.
Yeah. That all you've been playing, Yield?
Yep, that's all I've been playing.
All right, Alex, you want to take us next?
Yeah, so I got all of the characters in Shredder's Revenge in story mode up to level 10, so I'm good on that. Finally got Karai up to level 10, so I got all the unlocks for all the characters, feeling really good about that. And like I said, still enjoy going back and playing that game. I'm not going to harp on too much because I said it before, but I really think the best case for DLC would have been new bosses and new levels and not Dimension Shell Shock. Dimension Shell Shock was good. I just would rather go back and would more often go back and play against the bosses and the levels. Played a little bit of Rocket League with Yield On Thursday, we started a new Rocket Pass as we work into the holiday season. Hopefully the Frosty Fest comes back here strong because we, Yield and I have a couple birthdays coming up. Shuhei, Yield, remind me, when is your birthday? Because it's single digits, right?
Yeah, mine's tomorrow as of recording.
All right. I was like, we're getting towards the end of the single digits here in December, and I knew your was coming up. So,
and yours is what?
The 14th.
14th, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Less than a week between us. So obviously sometime maybe after, with Christmas being on the 25th, we might see the Frosty Fest here between our birthdays, or at least, shortly after.
If it doesn't start this week, it should start next week.
Yeah, hopefully so. And hopefully they don't bungle this one like they bungled the Haunted Hallows. But really, the where I poured my most time is in Dredge, which I got my platinum trophy in this past week. A couple little thoughts about the game, as well as some tips and tricks for the trophies. One thing I really like about the game is if you've never played Dredge, the map, there's basically in each corner of the map, the four corners, there's a different area that you get to explore. One's volcanic, one's marshlands. There's all these, these different themes to each one. But in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the map is where you start, the Marrows, basically the little town that you start at, and kind of where you will always be going back to deliver your most significant items in the game. The 5 main items you have to find. And the lighthouse, there's only one lighthouse in the map, and it's at the Marrows. And so I really love, so I'll go into the menu and pull up the map, but the lighthouse itself being in the middle of the map kind of helps you orient to everything, and it's kind of like your North Star. And I just love that about the game, being able to look up and I'm somewhere on the map, and I'm like, oh shit, where's the lighthouse? Oh, I just, flip around my viewpoint, turn the camera around. Oh, there's the lighthouse. And I immediately know where I am. And so I love that aspect of the game. I also really love the game for the DLC and where they implemented it. So I've got the Platinum Trophy and I'm working on the 2 DLCs, the Pale Reach and the Iron Rig. I've actually beaten the Pale Reach. I've gotten all the trophies for that, and I'm working on the Iron Rig currently. But the way they implemented the DLC is, there's been some times when I had issues getting into DLC and had to I can't remember games specifically, but there's been a few times when I had to look up, how do I access this DLC? Even though, I went and fucking bought it and downloaded it. And sometimes, developers will put a menu option for DLC and stuff like that. But with Dredge, you basically go into the map, and there is a big circle and a question mark at the bottom of the map, the south, where the Pale Reach is, which is an ice-themed area. And up to the north, in between the Devil's Spine and the Twisted Strand, there is the Iron Rig, and there's another circle with a question mark up there. So they basically just implement these 2 new areas into the map, which it's so intuitive and it's so easy to jump into. I really enjoy it, and it allows you to continue to traverse those other areas in the game while also playing in the new areas. So I really do like that, and how easy it was to jump into the DLC. As far as the DLC goes, the Pale Reach, pretty straightforward as far as it goes. You're basically each area in the game, you basically go there, you collect all the fish. There's different fish in every area, and you have a quest line to do and different side missions in every area, in every little quadrant of the game, I should say. So the Pale Reach is pretty much like that. There's new fish, there's new storyline, but you really don't have to leave that area to complete everything. But with the Iron Rig takes you basically all around the map, because there'd be different things, new fish in every area, and you basically, because of the way the story unfolds, you have to go retrace your steps to every area of the map. So it's far more, expansive than every other area of the game, because it basically takes into account every single area of the map. And they teach you new things. There's new you get to fuse rods so they can do more. They become stronger. They basically fit with the DLC. It kind of sounds weird that I haven't played without playing the DLC, but basically you can make the rods stronger to make them be able to do more things. They also introduce a new currencies on top of the new fish and everything. But when you're playing Dredge and you're going for the trophies, one of the best tips I can give you is a lot of the powers are really great. Banish helps you, if you're out and about and a creature comes to attack you, you can use Banish to scare it away. So there's all these different great powers. Manifest will take you back to basically where you started in the game. So you can fast travel to the middle islands of the game, which from there you can get almost anywhere really quickly. But some of my tips in the game, there's a power called Atrophy. And Atrophy, as you go along in the game, you're filling out your encyclopedia of normal fish, but also there's aberrations. Once you have a fish in your encyclopedia, if you then use atrophy on a spawn pool of them, you are guaranteed to get an aberration of that fish in that catch when you use atrophy. Now, atrophy will then have a cooldown, but you can just go to a dock, sleep for 12 hours, and then atrophy will be back ready again. It helps a lot with the rarer fish in the game, like the moonfish and the sunfish, things that are in the open ocean and don't spawn like, in the different air, like aren't like guaranteed to spawn in like the Gale Cliffs or like I said, the Devil's Spine or that. So they're just out in the open ocean. So they're rarer. And if you see them and you need an aberration, you're like, I got this in my encyclopedia. I'm just going to use atrophy, and you're guaranteed an aberration right there. It's an easy way to fill out your encyclopedia of aberrations. And then just my other tips, general for the game, not trophy related, but the things I really focused on that helped me, I think, get through the game a lot easier were engine speed, because I wanted to move as fast as I could, not just for the sake of monsters, but also for the sake of getting around. It's, if you're just sputtering around the map, it's not that great. When you get your engines all beefed up, you can get from point A to point B almost anywhere on the map really quickly. The other thing is cargo space. Obviously, you're going to be out fishing, and some of the fish can be really big. Like I said, it's a big Tetris. It's like a game of Tetris where you have these grid system on your cargo ship and your cargo hold, and you can only fit things certain ways. Certain things take up weird positions, weird spaces. So they're like puzzle pieces. You got to kind of move in your cargo to make them fit. The more cargo space you have, the more fish you can catch, the more money you can make at the market. So cargo space and engine speed are what I chose to focus on when upgrading my ship. And I would suggest anyone who plays Dredge beyond this, that's probably something you should do as well. So, but yeah, Dredge was my platinum trophy. Beat the Pale Reach, working on the Iron Rig. And then by the time the 10th rolls around, which is this Tuesday, I pre-ordered Reader's Rewind, the new Power Rangers game, and I'm planning on playing that. So hopefully I can finish the Iron Rig before then. But, if not, I'm well in the moving forward in all my goals here as the year ends. So I'm in a good spot as far as the trophies and the games go.
So first and foremost, welcome to the chat and thank you for the follow, El Gordo. Perdón por mi acento, pero bienvenidos y gracias por seguirme. With that said, going back to Dredge real quick.
I like where this is going.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten nearly as far as you. I got the DLC as well because it was on sale. And yeah, seeing that rig sitting in the middle of the ocean was pretty intimidating. But I'm in the I'm searching for all the dog tags now, and
there are 3.
I thought there were more than that. I think I've gotten 2.
So the Twisted Strand, I turned 3 into the guy. You mean the pilot who's crash landed?
Yes.
I turned in 3 to him, and that's all he required.
Okay, so yeah, I think then I'm missing 1 to move on. But I finally got the full upgrade to my hull. No, I'm sorry. I finally got the piece I needed. Now I need to get up the money. So I'm just spending a lot of time fishing to make sure I get my hull upgrades. And
Matt, there is, just in the Iron Rig DLC, you can upgrade your hull to level 5, but it does not require, from what I read, does not require any of the metals, the bundles of cloth, or the wood planks. You just have to pay the money and use one of the new resources that you should get introduced to in the Iron Rig. So
okay, that's not bad. Because the end result is I just want to make sure I have as much space for fish as possible. Because the fish I was starting to get in the Twisted Steps was raking in some money.
Yeah, the aberrations will net you if you're selling to market, they'll get you about double what the normal fish will.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to do that because have you noticed the difference between selling it to the mobile person versus going back to?
Oh, I always sold to the mobile person because what I would do is I would stick to the area of the map I was in, and the mobile merchant is always wherever you are. So the mobile merchant docks at all of the 4 corners of the map, those main areas. Whereas the fisherman the fishmonger at the Marrows, his shop is in town, so he'll always be there. But I just always would stay until I caught all the fish and all the aberrations in an area. I didn't leave that area, and I actually grinded way too much in the Marrows and the Gale Cliffs. So I had almost all the upgrades by the time I left the second area. I had 2 of the items in the quest, and my hull was level 4, and I was almost maxed on everything. So what I did was I always stayed in an area until I caught everything. So I would just always sell to the merchant and not the fishmonger at the Marrows.
Okay. Going back to chat real quick, Tricky gifted Will and Joe some subscriptions so that way they stop seeing ads. And Will is performing some translations for us in chat for El Gordo, so hopefully he's getting the gist. But El Gordo says something about learning English here, and I think that's a very bad idea. Don't learn English from us.
Well, especially not from Tricky, then you won't be able to read. But one thing I do want to say about Dredge's story, because you don't really... There's certain characters on the map you have to find to get the darker side of the story, because if you just get to the end and you get to the end of the story and you don't get some of the backstory from some of the people, like the Keeper of the Lighthouse and I'll give you a hint, a person who is located on an island near the Devil's Spine, the ending is going to slap the fuck out of you, because you're like, it is very, I'm trying to ruin anything, but it's very Shadow of the Colossus like, and that you don't realize how deep you're in until you're deep. So I did appreciate.
So what you're saying is, don't rush through the game. Actually, seek out the story.
Well, unlike Shadow of the Colossus, you don't have a choice. Team Eco's like, you're going to do this, and you don't have any choice. This game, there are multiple endings. There are 2 endings. So you are not beholden to anything. You are not tied to anything. But it is much easier to go for, so to speak, the bad ending than, say, the good ending. And I don't really. I mean, if you watch both endings, you're like, well, yeah, I can clearly see how one is better than the other. But there's definitely like a terribleness to both of them. So, but yeah, like this game, like they drop you hints along the way, but they never fully tell you like, hey, what you're doing is there's a darker side to this, and you don't learn until later on. And obviously the creatures themselves are, that you face out in the world. Like there's a giant anglerfish in the Marrows that comes out at the night. So you're going through the water at night, maybe fishing, and you'll see another ship like yours in the distance. Don't go towards that fucking ship, because that ship is a mirage. And what it is, that ship and the light in the ship is just the anglerfish's light on the front of his face. And if you get too close, well, you're anglerfish food. So like those monsters and some of the characters' dialogue are the only like clues that you have that there's something very wrong going on. So I hope I didn't ruin anything for anybody, but I did want to say that too. I do appreciate that the story, there is more to the story, like the Transformers, than meets the eye. I will tell you that.
I'll say I already kind of have an idea of where this is going, but with a name like Dredge, I was never expecting a sunshine and rainbows type ending.
Yeah, but you're dredging up materials. Like that's just
dredging up my fears. That's what I'm dredging up.
Hey, you get on that open ocean at night and you start getting that paranoia. I mean, you better sleep it off, or you better have some powerful lights. Oh, there is also another hint. There is a secret item, a light, the most powerful light in the game that you can attach to your boat in the Devil's Spine as part of a side quest. Get that. Matt, would you like me to tell you where it's located?
I'll ask you when the time's right.
All right.
The fun part about it all is as I come back to it every now and then, and I just, you find that fish, because I'm not looking at a guide. I'm just finding shit as it comes to me. And I turn around and go, okay, that's the weirdest fucking fish I've ever seen. And it's stuff like that. It's finding things like that keep me going in the game. For a while I was confused as to what to do with the dog until I stumbled upon what to do with the dog. And it's just little bits and pieces like that. Things that it peppers throughout the game that I find really enjoyable.
Oh, I asked the first person I came across, do you want this dog? And it just happened to be the person you were supposed to give the dog to.
Who wants this dog?
I'm giving away a dog. Anybody want
no, but I wasn't leaving that. So you find a dog on a desert island and the dog is just there, and you try to, it's very scared of you. So you got to, coax it and show it you're friendly. So I wasn't leaving that island until I pet that fucking dog and saved that dog. And lo and behold, I gave it some fish. It let me pet him, and he followed me. And I'm like, all right, get on my boat, dog. We're going to go sailing. I just had, with the DLCs, Matt, do you know the specific fish, the rare fish that only spawn in one area and only one of them spawns? So once you catch them, you're done?
I have not touched the DLCs yet.
Well, this is base game. So like the oarfish.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever found the oarfish.
No, I fucking haven't.
Okay.
Wait, no. I'm sorry. Yes, I did find the oarfish, and I think I'm supposed to let it rot, and then No, that was the eel.
Yes.
Okay, no, I haven't found the oarfish.
The oarfish is one of the 4 fish. So they're in each area of the map. including the Pale Reach. Each one of those areas has a fish that will only spawn once, and obviously, so they're incredibly rare. So you catch that one fish, you're done. And for 4 of them, for all the regular areas of the game, you have to then catch them and then tell the wandering merchant that you caught them, because that wandering merchant's like, hey, please catch these fish, and then you catch them and you tell her. So it's part of a quest line. The DLC introduces a thing where they bring in new bait, which is called exotic bait, which you can actually get those fish to show up again, and they have aberrations now. So if you've caught like the oarfish or like the sleeper shark or whatever from the Pale Reach, you've caught your one. If you got the right bait, you can get them to come back out, and you can get yourself a nifty little aberration to fill out your encyclopedia, which I thought was another cool thing they did in the DLC.
Making life a little easier.
I was gonna say we better get away from Dredge, or I'm gonna sit here and talk about it for another half an hour.
No, because honestly, if you're done with your games, I'm gonna go into my games, and the first game I was gonna bring up is Dredge.
Tear into it, Matt. Tear into it like a dog into some Alpo.
So I've already talked about it a little bit, but the idea was I caught the eel that you're supposed to let rot, and evidently there's such a thing as rotting too much, because then I found the person who I was supposed to give it to, and the eel had rotted to just being that single slot item. So it was worth nothing at that point. But I think I'm taking the game in stride. I'm not pushing through. Obviously, I'm not going for any total achievements. But I'm still having a lot of fun with it. As I mentioned, it scratches that itch of wanting to fish, but not actually wanting to sit around and wait. Because you can go to a spot, find a fish, and continue on. Not much more that I want to talk about the game. Alex and I hit up a bunch of it, but it's such a fun game. The dark atmosphere is something that is, some games struggle with, and this one I feel does it right. Next game is I did more Echoes of Wisdom, just making my way to the next dungeon. And again, this game very freestyles it, where you have your choice of which dungeons you can go to. Once you've reached that point of the story, it's like, hey, here's 3 areas that you want to go investigate. And the area I'm in is up in the Hebra Mountains, and it's freezing up there. So you have to have a fire or wear clothes or, mix in this game, it's not a potion that you get smoothies. And I could mix a smoothie that keeps me warm. So instead, I just use my powers and I make basically what's like a fire slime, and I'm carrying that around everywhere, and I throw it at all the ice monsters, and it's killing most of them instantly. So it's just a fun... The game allows you to solve problems multiple ways. You could be really intelligent about most of it. I tend to just do the simplest thing that I can to be able to play the game and just get through the sections. So the next dungeon is like an ice-based dungeon, and I got to work my way through. There's Yetis that you meet, and you got to help the Yeti find his brother. We'll continue on with that when I play a little bit more of that. Also, I didn't do any PlayStation 5 this week. I skipped Astrobot. I should probably get back to that. Then, let's see, going over to Steam. As I mentioned earlier, I ended up buying Battlefield 2042 because it was $5 during the Steam sale, and I figured you can't go wrong for $5. When the game launched, it was in really bad shape. They've since done a lot of improvements to it, and it now feels much better. It plays much better. I am enjoying it in the fact that, just like the older Battlefields, you get XP for the class weapons you're using. You get ribbons for doing certain things during a match. It feels satisfying now. And like I said, for $5, I've been missing playing Battlefield. And I was talking with one of my friends about this, where I was playing Call of Duty and I'm playing Battlefield. And I just feel so much better playing Battlefield than Call of Duty. Call of Duty, way too fast-paced, way too, I don't know, too stylized, I guess, now. Everything with like the different skins and the things you can call in. I'm just not happy with the way Call of Duty has turned out compared to the way it used to be. Meanwhile, Battlefield, it does have some of that, but I feel like still having the ability to use vehicles and traverse the entire map in a helicopter or a plane, plus having the different classes all build towards like an actual fun time, at least for me. I played more Star Wars Outlaws. I'm still putzing around on Tatooine, just doing some side missions, collecting stuff there, getting chased by the Empire, which happens more frequently than I care to admit. But it's, to me, still earning its keep. I'm still having fun with it. I am enjoying Sabacc more than I thought I would. Once I finally realized what the actual rules were, I go around. I'm having fun trying to find the different dealers and play Sabacc there, beat everybody that I can. You don't earn a ton of money doing it, so I don't know how long that'll hold up, but it's not as deep as, they make it out to be. Trying to think, right now I'm at a point where I'm just trying to find parts to upgrade my blaster, my speeder, my spaceship, and I'm trying to do everything I need to on one planet at a time. So I'll be on Tatooine for a little while doing that. Finally finished Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, at least the main missions. Not to spoil it for Yield, I think, Yield, you just picked it up, right?
Yeah, I just got it this week.
Yeah. So, there's essentially 5 operations. The operations vary in length. The last operation is the longest out of any of them. And, it is the ultimate bro game. It's basically how I can explain it. It's definitely up there in Game of the Year for me. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't pretend to be something it's not. And being able to play with up to 2 of your friends just gives it an edge over everything else. I also played a game called GTFO, which is kind of like trying to think of what it's most like. It's a roguelike. I don't even think it's a roguelike. You drop into missions with your friends, you use maps, you use computer systems to try to sneak around and collect things or finish your mission without startling the enemies as much as possible. There's a lot of darkness in it. You have to use flashlights. You have to try to sneak around and get the items you want. Gunfire is the last thing you want because you don't have a lot of bullets and there's a lot of enemies. Then, as the guys and I were talking, I played more Helldivers 2. I finally got the last super sample I wanted to be able to buy the combustion upgrade, which increases all of my fire damage by 25%. And I can't tell you how happy I am having that, and now with the orbital napalm strikes, because if you talk about maximum damage, that is one of the best ways to clear out groups of bugs. I don't know about you guys, but
I almost always drop with the napalm barrage.
I don't know. I'm still partial to the 500K because I just love seeing things go boom. And the orbital laser, the orbital laser, and the 500K and the rail cannon are just those. I have stuck with those for I don't know how many hours now. I found those 3, and I'm just married to them.
I take both. I take the 500K and the napalm orbital, all because I can drop a napalm orbital on like a big hive, a big bug nest, or at the objective where they got a bunch of bugs. We'll throw that there, let it wipe everybody out. Then I got the 500K to help clear out. And depending on what offensive weapons I'm running, I may have the precision strike or not. But yeah, those are kind of my go-tos.
So I've been toying around with like the right fire builds, and the torture is nice to have as a primary, but definitely reduces my capabilities at range. So I found that if I go in with the cookout, which is that fire pump action shotgun, I take the grenade pistol, I'll take an inferno grenade, and then I bring down the flamethrower. That is a pretty effective setup for me. It was even doing me pretty well at the level 6 because the cookout gives me a little bit more range, but also stopping power, especially on the spewers. They can suck a duck.
And it gives you some knockback.
Yes, and that's exactly what it is they're getting ready to vomit on me, and I just pop them in the face, and it kind of hits them back, which I enjoy. And then I bring the orbital napalm. I'll bring the orbital laser because the orbital laser is really good at being precision, but still wiping out groups of enemies, and also is good for bug holes.
Powerful weapon in the game.
I
orbital
would say that.
laser.
Yeah.
Yes, the most powerful weapon. That's why you only have 3 of them, and not infinite.
And then, you know, I may bring a shield. I may bring, you know, the
Bring with
the
them
precision
dogs.
strike.
Bring in the
No, I hate
dogs.
the dogs. I hate, because I die to the dogs more than I die to frickin' bugs or bots. Mostly my teammates' dogs, because they shoot me in the side of the head.
Yeah, but that's not your dog. That's the other dogs.
Yeah, no, my dogs kill me just as much. I can't, you know, there isn't too much else I do. You know, as excited as I was for the Hellfire upgrade to the pods, it just doesn't do enough.
They didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's like it sets the ground on fire immediately in the area, and half the time it doesn't drop on what I needed to drop on. So, unfortunately, I try to avoid using that one, but everything else seems to work pretty well, especially when I'm with other people, because, you know, they'll carry weapons I don't normally bring to the fight. But that's, you know, that's neither here nor there. It's all about having fun and hopefully not killing your friends in the most hilarious way possible. Or maybe it is. I don't know.
Sounds like part of the fun to me.
And then if Joe, you're still in chat, yes, I have been playing Marvel Rivals. And, you know, I'll talk more about that when we get to our topic of the week. But I've been having fun. I have some complaints. I have some highlights. So we'll see how it shakes out for what everybody thinks of it. Anyways, we got some news to get through, just that way we can keep the show running. And the first topic here, coming from Insider Gaming, Mike Straw. Black Ops 6 zombie actors quit over lack of AI protection, it's claimed. So there's a leaker out there named Ghost of Hope, and according to their social media posting, they posted that almost all the actors featured in the mode, so the voice actors in this case, have pulled out of work and over the lack of AI protections in their contracts. My first thought is, how could you pull out of a contract unless that contract is up and they're asking you to come back for more? But also, you knew this well into when the game was being developed, I think, because of your, you know, that's the nature. You record lines, you do things, you're contracted. And these are the things that SAG-AFTRA is trying to handle. But I don't know. What do you guys think about, you know, just leaving when the contract really is not protecting your job?
So like you, I'm unsure of how they could get out of a contract, because usually, I mean, that's, you got lawyers to go over that for a reason. You know, like you said, unless the contract, you know, would need to roll over, being renegotiated, or if there was a clause in there that the actors could be like, or the voice actor could be like, hey, you violated this clause, or you violated this aspect of the contract, this is now null and void, I can get out. But we've all seen where AI can go. We've seen it can be helpful. We've seen it can also be used to potentially do the work of people. And it hasn't been widespread yet, but we can all see a future where that could definitely happen. So if you're an actor and you're concerned about protections in industry for, you know, what you do, you know, obviously, hopefully there's, you know, an option for a union for you, because that would help give you some protections. But I don't know if maybe these people were not told upfront how much AI was going to be a part of it. But if you're an actor now, you would want to know, hey, I mean, this is a key aspect of your profession. You would want to know, or at least ask about, what role does AI play in this project? I don't know, like trying to dip out mid, I can understand being wary of AI, but trying to dip out mid-contract, that's just going to be real hard to do. I mean, you kind of have to be on top of these things. You can't expect a company to be like, spell it out for you that, oh yeah, we're going to use this much AI and replace you halfway through. But I don't know. I feel like part of it rests on the actors themselves to be keenly aware of what's going on. But yeah, you got to be careful about what you sign contracts for, because, like I said, a lot of them, they're not going to let you out.
And again, it goes back to the idea of, what are they being asked to do now that the game is out? And, you know, maybe they weren't concerned about AI, but now somebody's bringing AI in to do something, and they're saying, well, that's not cool. I don't know. There's a lot of
Well, maybe, like, I don't know, maybe
this.
What if their voices, like they say, hey, the company says, hey, you're contracted to us. Well, whatever you contribute voice-wise for this game is our property because we own the game, and this is in the contract. But then maybe, and I don't know, but this is a scenario I could think of where the company then says, okay, well, since we own this piece of your audio, we can then use it in AI to produce other things.
That's possible too.
I don't know. The waters get really murky there because, again, they would own they could own the voice work specifically for that dialogue, but then would they be able to recreate it or edit it in any way through AI to be able to use that on other projects? Because then if you're a voice actor and you have work that is being owned by another company and that company then tries to profit off it, using something like in another project, I could see that being another thing that's like, oh, hold the fuck on. That's my voice. You're using it under. But then again, like there's so much tied into contracts and so much you have to have lawyers to look over for that. That's just one of those scenarios that I can think of that people might like put up the red octagon and be like, no, stop. We can't be doing this.
And Tricky says, if they're using AI for voice work, then they don't need the actors, so them leaving is irrelevant. Yeah. Yield, any thoughts?
Well, who knows? I mean, maybe they can't rely completely on AI. Maybe AI is kind of a crutch at this point, but they know it's not super reliable at this point. The technology's just not there or what they want to do for their projects. So they kind of have to have somebody in the fold to make sure everything is done.
Yeah. Yield,
if you're a voice actor, be aware. If you're a voice actor, be aware of how
know your
AI
contracts.
affects your job. Yeah.
Leaving in a contract's always sketchy. I hope they have their bases covered. I'm not for using AI to replicate people's voices. So if the actors feel like they're getting hosed, then I don't necessarily have a problem as long as they're leaving for, as long as they're leaving for, I guess you would say, a good reason. But I don't know. There's a lot more information I think that needs to come out before I can fully commit one way or the other, I guess.
Yeah, well, then you got people like Herman Hulse and Hideaki Nishino that said, people, not AI, will make games. Reported by the BBC, Tom Gherkin, where they said during a 30th anniversary celebration that both Herman and Nishino said that while AI has the potential to revolutionize gaming, however, it will never replace the human touch made by people. I think currently is the qualifying statement there to make, because at some point, if a company is going to save some money and use AI to make games, they will. The question is whether they'll be good games or not. Alex?
Sorry, Matt, could you repeat that?
No, it's quite all right. It's just that they said that, AI will never replace people and the personal touch that they give. I'm saying, once a company realizes that they could save some money by using AI, that they're going to do that. And I'm questioning whether those games are going to be good or not.
Yeah, no, I think that companies will try to cut corners and save money any way they can. Now, that could go two ways. Are they trying to save money to pass it off to the consumer? Well, probably not. They're just trying to make as much money as they can, and we're still going to be paying the same amount or more for their work in the future. But I'm fine with the use of AI as long as it has human oversight. I don't trust machines to do everything. I don't trust software to do everything. And this is something I see more and more in my job, is the creep of software to kind of supplant the people that have been in place doing jobs for a long time. And in some areas it works fine, but you always kind of have to have human oversight for it because, software just doesn't always work as it should. And so I think that the human touch always needs to be involved in the process, and there needs to be more of a human touch than technology. Look, if companies can save money and still make really good games by using the AI, I'm fine with that, but you can't let it run wild and dictate everything through programs. You have to have people there, like the article said, or like you said, the human touch. You have to have oversight there by people, because I just don't trust software to get it right completely.
So, Yield, when Tricky finally institutes AI to run the podcast, what are you going to be doing?
We're probably all going to be sitting at home.
That's how a lot of developers feel, that once AI gets put in place, they're not going to be needed to work anymore.
How are we gonna have homes? We're gonna be able to pay for homes. We'll have to live together.
The robot overlords will take care of us.
We'll have to live in an apartment together. We'll have to get like a condo together, just to be able to afford everything.
Well, I
recommend somewhere in Ohio or Kentucky, because where you live, Matt, it's way too fucking expensive.
Well, according to Terminator, most of us won't have to worry about living anywhere, much less living in general. Yeah. Well,
the machines will nuke us.
Speaking of things that won't exist in the near future, Ubisoft XDefiant will be shutting down in June 2025. Coming from CNET and Tyler Graham, basically, Ubisoft has announced that they will shutter the game as of June, which is, 7 months away at this point. And they said the game is too far away from reach. I'm sorry, my notes were bad. The game is too far away from reaching the results required to enable further significant investment. Though it's going offline in June, the new registration and downloads will no longer be available, and anyone who bought items from their shop in the last 30 days will be automatically refunded. So the issue I have with this is, I think just a couple weeks ago, they were like, no, we are absolutely not shutting the game down. And now they're shutting the game down. But the statement about, well, we can't invest in the game anymore because it's not getting our desired results. Again, most AAA games do, it comes down to money, and the company go, well, I don't want to spend any more in that game. It's not giving us a return on investment. When, a lot of good games aren't about returns on investment. It's about making a fun game that people want to play. And
if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, and then you profit because people like playing good games. So they're to me, it sounds like they're following a formula, and when that formula didn't match something like Counter-Strike or Valorant, they were like, all right, well, enough of that.
This isn't working. We're done.
That's mostly what it turns out to be. Alex?
I'm going to use an example for another game, the Pokemon series, and why I feel comfortable giving my money to the Pokemon series, especially, a game like Pokemon Go, is because, there are a lot of games where it's like, if that game goes down, then anything you've bought in that game goes with it. You can't use it anymore. If Rocket League shut down, any money that we put into Rocket League or any of the goal scores or the cosmetics that we put into, our cars, anything in our garages goes with it. We can't play it. So, with Pokemon, though, there is a system in the old days, Pokemon Bank, but now you have Pokemon Home, where you can actually move Pokemon from your games into a hub that then you can use to move Pokemon to other games. So that is a great example of, you're putting time and investment and money into this game series, whether it be on mobile or on Switch or whatever, and you have a place to take your Pokemon when a certain game either shuts down or you're done playing it, which is something I've always appreciated about Pokemon in general. Now, Matt, what did you say about, were there going to be any refunds or anything like that? Were they planning on
only if you bought in the last 30 days, which I think is kind of a dick move?
Yeah, because what if you're like, oh man, I bought it 31 days ago?
Literally, yeah.
So I guess that, when you're making this decision to, like you talked about 2 weeks ago, how they said, no, it's going to keep living on. These talks about shutting down this game happened before last Wednesday, right? This has probably been an ongoing conversation at Ubisoft. And, it's not, obviously, if you're going to come out and say, oh, no, please don't pay attention to the man on fire over here. Pay attention to this, nice shiny coin I'm waving in front of your face. No, the game is going to continue on. They say that because they don't want people to stop investing in the game, because at that point, I'm assuming that they're trying to beat back any bad PR, any negativity, because they know that they're at the very last legs of this game, and if they can't somehow drum up support, then it's done. It's truly finished. But at the same time, again, 2 weeks in between, they probably knew they were shutting this game down because they've had this game came out. I remember us talking about this game and how it had a decent start to it as far as community response, but I can't remember when. But it's been out for anywhere between 8 months to a year, maybe a little longer than that. But yeah, within these 2 weeks, you would know. It's like we've had these talks. This game is done. We're just waiting for the right time to announce it. So who knows? Maybe that 30-day refund period is that they decided 30 days ago that they were going to, or a month ago they were going to shut this game down. I don't know, but you can't refund everybody, because for anybody who jumped on board day one, you can't refund them, because in the end, if you played enough XDefiant, you probably got your money's worth. I would think. And as consumers, again, we have to be aware that if you're going to dump money into these online games, if these games are tied to servers, once these games go down, you don't have access to it anymore. You got to be aware of that before you just let loose and open the bank, open your checkbook. So I guess all my jumbled thoughts there is, it's nice they're giving some people refunds. I'm glad that people who bought within the last 30 days are getting refunds. If you bought within the last 2 months, that sucks, because you probably, unless you're an early adopter, you probably didn't get your money's worth. But also Ubisoft, I mean, if you're going to shut the game down, if reports are coming out that says you're going to shut the game down, fucking come out. You know what? Yes, we are. Don't try to hide it and then come out 2 weeks later and say, oh, nope, this is actually happening, because it makes you look shitty. It makes you look really bad. And then people moving forward are do I invest in this game because they shut this game down? Why would I do this? Sony and Concord, why am I going to invest in Sony's next live service game? Because, well, look what happened to Concord. I mean, you have to have some level of honesty to it, because otherwise people won't buy into your strategy going forward. Matt, I don't remember if I answered your question. I just talked.
No, that was a good conversation. Yield, anything to add?
That's your nice way of saying, no, you didn't answer my question.
Shut the fuck up. No. No.
That's a lot of blabbering you did there.
It was definitely, it's buyer beware. And the idea that they're offering refunds at all is a nice thing. And you're right. Yeah, maybe to some point that people got their money's worth. And Tricky points out that the refunds are for microtransactions, since the game is free to play. But it's still to say that, offer something to somebody. The game's less than a year old at this point. So, what? Yeah, it's not Concord bad, but they still need to do something.
Well, honestly, you know what? I mean, Concord bad, I guess you mean flopped entirely. But at least with Concord, if you wanted a refund, you got a full refund.
Yeah. Well, again, that game was pay to play.
Yeah.
Yield?
Yeah. There was definitely a buy-in you had for that game.
Well, Ubisoft definitely needs an overhaul, because
maybe coming.
Because they're, shutting down games and not fulfilling on other games. I agree with Alex. Don't sit around and tell everybody that it's all well and good, and then 2 weeks later, oh yeah, we're shutting down in 7 months. Play while you can. It's a crappy business model. If you're going to bail, then just tell everybody you're bailing. I mean, I get it. You want to make as much money as you can, but it feels fishy.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Live service is, yes, live service can get you a stream of money over time to help you support future projects, as opposed to developing a game for years and then releasing it and getting people to pay $60 or $70 for it up front. The problem is that with live service, a lot of the games are free to play, and you're not guaranteed any money for someone playing. Some people may invest money, some people may buy microtransactions, but you're not guaranteed money. Whereas with a $70, $60 game, anyone who buys it, you're guaranteed their money. So it is a bit more of a boom or bust business model than just your standard, MSRP, because at least when someone buys a game like Astrobot, you know what you're going to get. You know you're going to get money from them. Whereas when someone downloads XDefiant or Fortnite or whatever, you can't guarantee they're going to spend any money on it. So the model itself is, kind of fraught with peril in terms of financials.
Yeah, absolutely valid. It's I think the issue is depending on the IP, you may have a certain level expectation, as one we're going to be talking about later, Marvel Rivals. Free to play, and people love the IP, so therefore you're going to get something. The question is how much. Speaking of much, how much time are you guys playing games every week versus watching games? Because that's a new report that came out and says that gamers are spending more time watching videos about gaming than playing the games actually themselves. And, I just quoted gamesindustry.biz. Vicky Blake wrote this out, and it just as Media Research went out and surveyed gamers. Now, I didn't go into the size, sampling, how many, whatever it is. Gamers surveyed spend an average of 7.4 hours a week gaming compared to 8.5 hours watching about games. And I have a feeling that's more that they went out to gamers and said, hey, what do you feel you spend doing each every week, as opposed to getting real hard numbers. But as a fully functioning adult, and I'm using air quotes there on the functioning part.
Well, I thought it was for the adult part.
Yeah, that's valid too. Yeah, that's a valid use.
Let's just put air quotes around the whole
around the entire
all
thing.
Of us. Yeah.
I certainly find myself like it needs a certain level of mental fortitude to like just dive into a game that I need to invest some brain power for, as opposed to something like Battlefield where I'm just playing and going through the motions, as opposed to a game like, Star Wars Outlaws, where I got to think about what I need to do next and where I need to go and how the story's engaging me. I don't know how much I do one or the other, but it sometimes certainly feels like it's just easier to start watching a video about somebody talking about games or reviewing games or playing games. I don't know. Do you find yourself watching anything recently?
If I watch anything on games, it might be like somebody's YouTube on how to get like a specific trophy or the way to go about it if I'm having trouble with something. Unless I'm looking for like a trailer or like a game I have never heard of before and it's already been out and I'm like, okay, I want to see this to see if it's something I'm interested in. I am definitely not in their wheelhouse of their poll. I play far more video games than I watch videos of video games. So I guess I missed the poll.
Well, I'll let you know I didn't get the poll question either. However, that said, again, this is just talking averages, and the average isn't massive. It's not like a huge difference where people are playing 5 hours a week and they're watching 20 hours. It's just an interesting concept that a group of gamers like to, I can't even say like to, because maybe it's just an opportunity where they're like, they consider sitting in bed at night like I tend to do. I'll watch Game Grumps, and that's people playing video games. And that's not me actively playing a game, but it's how I'm winding down my night. So I don't know, Alex, do you find yourself either watching or playing games more for your weekly intake?
Well, here, I'll answer you in a moment, Matt, but Ash is getting ready to put the garage door down again, so give me a sec here.
That's fun.
Still going down, still going down.
I'll cut all of this out in post.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'll cut it out but you're just gonna have to. Obviously, there'll be a big silence where my audio should be, and you'll have to deal with that. But I'll cut this down. So I get, because we've all had that fatigue when it comes to games. Like you finish a new game, you get the platinum trophy, a nice shiny new platinum trophy. One day, Matt, you will feel that the honor that comes along with that, the joy, the sheer joy that comes along with it. But you don't know what to start. You don't know what to play. So maybe you'll, go back and play something you played 1,000 times. We all have that TV series or that movie. For me, it's something like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where you've seen every episode, but you don't know what else to watch, and you're going to watch it again because what else are you going to do? So I understand, there are moments when people might be like, you know what, I don't really want to jump into a new game. I don't want to invest in anything. I'm just going to watch something. somebody else play or watch a movie or watch a television show. For me personally, I've never understood the appeal of just sitting at your computer or whatever and just watching someone on Twitch, to listen to them talk, to watch them play games. I understand that, not everyone has the same social circles, and some people have larger social circles, or some people just have an easier time meeting people. And Twitch does offer an opportunity for people to engage with other people, and for people can grow a community that way. I understand that. So some people maybe a little more introverted, a little more shy, and it's an easier way for them to get out there and just to kind of make connections. So I don't want to shit on it. It's just I when I'm playing a game, sometimes I'll have the sound turned off or something like that. If I've already know what the story is, or I'm playing it again, or if it's a game where the story's just kind of like blah, whatever, who cares? I'll mute the TV and I'll turn on a podcast, or I'll turn on a YouTube video or something like that. So I can understand in those instances, if I ever was going to sit there and turn on a YouTube stream, or a Twitch stream, and someone playing a game and commenting, it's going to be as background noise for what I'm doing in front of me, which is playing another game. I could play Rocket League on mute and listen to somebody podcast, and I've been playing Rocket League for how many years now? It's not going to change. So it really, for me, would just be background noise. I could never just sit in front of my computer and just watch somebody else play. That to me is, I want to be more engaged. And while I understand, a lot of people have spent many hours doing that on Twitch, it's a reason why Twitch became so big. I just can't do it myself. I need to be more engaged in what I'm doing and less engaged in what somebody playing another game is doing. Because if I'm interested in a game, I want to play that game myself. I don't want to watch somebody else play.
Yeah, well, again, whether it's sitting down watching Twitch, watching us talk about games, it sometimes becomes easier as a passive thing to do it, whereas you might be working on something else that you may not be playing a game. So to your point, that Cosmo agreeing with me?
Yeah, Juno's on the bed. She's laying on the electric blanket,
okay.
So she's
Juno.
warm. Cosmo just came in and he's decided he's going to be a blabbermouth and talk a lot.
It's all right. He can agree with me all he wants. It's just, I find myself, like I said, at nights, I'll just sit down, turn on YouTube, and I'll watch somebody talk about a game. One of my more favorite items was watching a guy named Josh Strife, and he talks about old games, and he talks about MMOs, and his voice is soothing to me. But it's one of those, I'll sit down and watch it as I'm trying to go to bed. So I don't know. I get where the study's going, but I also think it's more complex than just people going, I want to watch a video about gaming as opposed to playing a game. And finally, in a little bit of feel-good news, but before that, Will asked a question, can you get a trophy for a game if you watch somebody else play it? Wasn't that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection able to turn it over? No, that just was autoplay, right?
Yes.
Okay, so not technically somebody else watching it. Technically, yes, Will, you can get a trophy for a game if you watch somebody else play it when you give them access to your account and watch them stream it, and they get a trophy on your account. I think that qualifies. Don't know if we know somebody who did that or not.
Pretty sure we do, right?
Anyways, going back to the bit of feel-good news from Video Game Chronicles, Chris Scullion wrote on this. EA, of all companies, has made 38 patents for accessibility available for other people to use, and they promise they won't sue you. Basically, what they're saying is they initiated a program in 2021 where EA offered to share 5 of its previously protected patents that improved accessibility for players. This has grown to 38 over the recent years. Things, when you think about accessibility, some of the examples they gave you was things that deal with speech recognition, expresses speech audio from text, voice aging using machine learning, so AI, dynamic speech functionality selection. So things that make games more accessible to people who aren't able to play it the same way that, Yield, Alex, or I might, or maybe even Tricky. So I just wanted to bring this up and say how much of the news that we cover has so many negative connotations. This is a nice thing. Kind of going back to when Xbox developed their accessible controller, when PlayStation developed their accessibility controller. It's giving people, I should say, it's making games more accessible to the population as a whole. And I, for one, am all for it.
Yeah, something like this that allows more people to enjoy video games shouldn't be something that you monetize and make money off. It's to be something in the game community that is shared and able to, and truly making the game experience better. EA being willing to share this, and I don't know how people, how the whole process works, but them filing these patents, but also allowing other people to use them, that improves the game. Like, it's not, again, something that should be monetized. It allows the game experience to reach more people, to, and theoretically, if somebody who has issues with gameplay, if you create these accessibility features, well, then maybe they're more inclined to spend money on video games that they wouldn't be able to enjoy as much before. I don't know. It is a nice story, and it's one of those things that I truly believe the game community as a whole should come together and be like, oh, hey, these are our accessibility features, and everyone feeds off each other, and all these ideas lead to better and better features for everybody that, again, makes gaming more inclusive.
EA you always use good publicity. So this is not a bad thing, when they make, patents available to use. So
I and again, how much we shit on EA, I'll give them where credit's due, and I felt this was good enough for us.
Look, man, I praised Dead Space from EA Motive from from the valleys to the mountaintops. How much more credit do you want me to give EA? Start to feel sick over here. I feel nauseous.
I think maybe you could say a couple more nice things about John Riccitelli.
I will say negative nice things about John Riccitelli.
Anyways, so the nice thing about this week is, even though I posted the question nice and early this morning, we got nothing but troll questions. So we're skipping listener questions this week. So no audio, no questions. Good on us for being efficient. On to our topic of the week. And I had a couple ideas I was floating around. Things like, in America, we just had the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack. And that made me think of, like, what games where, there was a big event that changed the way the game played. And the example was Gears of War Emergence Day. But I couldn't think of many others. So I changed the subject into something a little more topical. And to say Marvel Rivals has shattered expectations with over 400,000 concurrent users after its launch on Steam. This might indicate that people do want 5v5 hero shooters. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Hey, Concord, what the hell happened? Even though this is more of a 6-on-6. So I wanted us to talk about the similarities and differences between it and Concord, with the most obvious one being that the established IP of the Marvel characters. And I'll say, having played the game, this kind of goes back to what I was alluding to earlier. There's some goods, there's some negatives. There's some characters I'm like, I don't know who the hell that is. There's a character named Snow, and I guess either new or whatnot. There's like a mini Galacta, so not Galactus, Galacta. It's a female Galactus essentially. And when Concord came out and said we're a 5v5 shooter, I was like, all right, I'm done. I didn't even know it was a pay for play at that time. Marvel Rivals is free, but it's doing very well, at least from a concurrent player standpoint. Is it that people don't want 5v5 shooters, or do they just want something that looks fun and that they're familiar with? Thoughts?
Wow. I kind of want to just say yes. The IP helps. People know the characters. Free helps. But without, like, experiencing myself or seeing any gameplay trailers, I'm going to lean more heavily into people knowing the IP. I mean, ultimately, if you build a fun game and market it reasonably well, you're going to initially have the players. I've always believed in that. So Concord fell on their face from the get-go.
So I'll say that, you know, one's an FPS. This is a over-the-shoulder third-person action game.
Well, that helps.
It's definitely, you know, it gives some people more accessibility to it than FPS. I know people tend not to like FPSs if you get motion sick, or maybe you're just not good with you know, mouse and keyboard.
Knowing where you're at.
Yeah. So, you know, before we get to Alex, I'll say this is that I like it so far. And again, this was somebody who's like, I don't want to do another 5v5 hero shooter. The IP helps, the free helps, like you said, Yield. But the game has a lot of issues. Playing an attack and defend match, the timer for that is very short, which favors defense. And to me, that kind of puts you off. Like, if you get in that mode and you're an attacker, like, why do I want to play this? I'm just going to quit out. But then there's penalties if you leave early. On top of that, you know, I think this is another game that tracks your voice recording. So if it detects something that it determines is bad, you're going to get punished for it. The hit detection doesn't feel good. The ability to determine who's friendly versus foe still needs a lot of work. Like, I was playing with my buddy and he's like, hey, Thor's on me. And I turn around and I find a Thor and I start shooting. But the problem is it was our team's Thor. I couldn't determine quick enough that there was a blue bar above his head as opposed to a red bar. So there needs to be some determining factors for that. You know, and Will's talking in chat saying, you know, Marvel Heroes are doing a lot of heavy lifting for Marvel Rivals. And you say issues, but I'd say they're just growing pains that'll balance itself as time goes on. And that's what I fear, is that this is going to have a lot of balancing issues. And for right now, it's in a place where it's like, okay, this is fun. You know, but then Overwatch was fun at the beginning and it got balanced to be not fun. And that's my concern, is that something like this hits, everybody jumps on it and is great. And now they're starting to get the feedback. The developer's starting to get the things that they go, all right, well, that's not what we expected. We're going to start changing that. Kind of like what Helldivers did. And it took them a lot of negative feedback to get back to where they're going to go. Whereas Concord kind of launched and people said it was fine, but it didn't really do much. Alex, your thoughts on the whole, this is good, but Concord was bad?
It's definitely a case-by-case basis, because people can sit here and say that they don't like live service games, but there's always that game that can pull them in. World of Warships, Yield talked about it earlier. Yield is still, at least from time to time, checking in with World of Warships, which very much is a live service game. And we've heard Yield, you know, talk very disparagingly about live service games. I think there is a very negative connotation when it comes to live service, but again, when the live service game comes around, I do think anyone and everyone can invest, maybe not in that specific game, but almost anyone out there can find a game that interests them in that space and that they're willing to invest their time into. The Marvel Heroes thing, look, Marvel has been popular for how long? Granted, far more popular since the MCU came around, but those heroes have been popular for a long, long time. I do think there is some fatigue, and maybe it's because maybe it's in the movie space, maybe it's more on like Disney Plus and all that. Maybe it hasn't quite cracked the video game sector yet, but there is a fatigue for Marvel. But that being said, the Marvel license and being able to play as Marvel characters as opposed to playing as what looks like Concord or Firewalk's vision, Firewalk rip. Firewalk's vision of what Marvel characters might look like if they lived in like an adjacent universe or something like that. That matters. And again, being free to play matters because there's no barrier to entry. yes, you can maybe get more out of it if you spend money, but you don't have to. And that's another thing with Concord that hurt them is there's all this negative press about Concord and how people really didn't care for it after the initial videos came out. And then they announced it was going to be $40 and people went, it was like another slap in the face. People were like, what? No, I doubly don't want to play this game now. So free matters. Getting people to the doorstep, getting them to come in and at least try it, get the controller in their hand matters. So I think that it all helps a little bit. I don't think there's necessarily that every live service game is bad, and I don't necessarily think that every Marvel game is going to draw everyone's attention, but something like this where you have like, I mean, the MCU set it up, the scene at the airport in Civil War, where it was like 6-on-6. Like this kind of something that is baked into the Marvel universe with the pro registration, the anti-registration, stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't know the story in Marvel Rivals, but having them go at each other like that, it's always been kind of mutants going at mutants and X-Men. It's always kind of been something that's been baked into the MCU and with the Marvel characters. So I think there's a lot of factors that help this game as opposed to what hurt Concord. But if you're asking me specifically if the Marvel characters have a positive impact overall despite fatigue, I do think that's a more positive impact than just playing as new characters that look like they want to be Marvel characters.
So what's interesting there is you talked about the art style, and this makes me go back to think about Marvel's Avengers. And everybody complained about the art style and the looks of those characters. It literally looked like they were trying to make them be MCU characters visually, but just so different that they established their own. Meanwhile, Marvel Rivals, the characters don't look like their MCU counterparts, but they look good. They don't look ugly. They don't look like somebody was trying hard to not be the MCU. They look like the characters you would expect them to look like. So visually, from an art style, it's captivating. It looks decent. It's something I want to play because I look at it and say, all right, that's what I want to see that. Whereas you take something like Concord and the original characters that they were making, I didn't necessarily hate any of them. I mean, I saw where, the first guy that they showed on there, I literally thought it was like a discount Michael Rooker from Guardians of the Galaxy. But then the robot looked neat. The brute looked neat. That game, I looked at it, take the price tag out of it. There was nothing else visually in the game that I said, okay, I need to play this, because everything that I thought they were going to do via what I thought was going to be a story-based game was ripped out from me to say, nope, it's a 5v5 shooter. You're not, all this interesting stuff that you could potentially see, you're not. They could have had massive set pieces. So when you're counting solely on the design of your characters, they better be good. And I just don't think the character designs in Concord were great. Now, you have some people out there complaining about certain aspects of certain characters, and I think that was just them pushing an agenda. I should say the complainers were pushing an agenda. I just didn't find any of them visually stunning to say, all right, that's what I want to look. Meanwhile, the Marvel characters, I know them, I like them, and I'm okay with them. And then they have the cosmetics associated with those, and some of them are pretty cool. Venom's got all sorts of different cosmetics. Hela has like different color cosmetics. So they need some work there to be done. But like Will said, there's just some growing pains. And Tricky says that Avengers looked more realistic while Rivals are more cartoony. And, a cartoony-based game based off of comic book characters is never a bad thing either.
No. Well, and look at it this way. Like, can you play as the Hulk in this game?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you? So the Hulk. If you're coming in this game, you're already a fan of the Hulk. The gameplay designers and whoever, the people who design this game, don't need to sell you on the Hulk. You already like the Hulk. Whereas if you play a new game with characters you've never seen before, they have to sell you on those characters. They have to do things and tell story elements to move these characters forward to make you like them. Meanwhile, you played Hulk Ultimate Destruction on PS3 back in the day, and you're like, fuck yeah, I like Hulk. Hulk's in this game, Marvel Rivals. Oh, God, I'm going to play Marvel Rivals because I want to play Hulk. So, again, there's already a fan base for these characters, Hulk, Thor, whoever. And then with another game like Concord, you have to sell those characters to people anew because they've never met them before. So that is, again, where familiarity comes into play and helps a game like Marvel Rivals.
Yo, do you had something you were going to say?
No.
Okay. So, to sum it up, I just think the end argument is, it's a IP people are familiar with, they like it, and it's not necessarily the game mode or the necessarily being live service, but if you make something that people are familiar with and enjoy, it could technically be any game mode. Doesn't have to be just story-based or just 5v5 shooter. I know it's got my attention. I don't know how long I'll get into it. Again, I played Overwatch for a bit, enjoyed it. I still play Team Fortress 2 to this day. But that's still a little bit of a different thing compared to like what Concord was trying to do. And free to play doesn't hurt. That's at least the way I see it. All right. Well, with that said, thank you everybody for listening to us talk about our crap opinions for another hour and a half. Or my crap opinions. Alex and Yield got good opinions. We'll say that.
No, honestly, came out there, Matt. You can't cover it up now. You've uncovered the truth. We got to just go forward knowing that. Yeah, man, it's end of the year. We're getting close to the end of the year, and I don't know. We're all kind of like just, I don't want to say hobbling into the new year, but there's not a lot going on right now, and we're just kind of, we're feeling cozy. It's cold outside. We're in our cozy gaming mode, and sometimes you just want to. You may have gotten the Platinum Trophy in Ghostbuster Spirits Unleashed, but you want to feel cozy and you want to do more Ghostbuster Spirits Unleashed. I get it. Helldivers 2. You want to set things on fire. So, it's the end of the year and we're just trying to wrap up strong.
And wrapping up we will do, including wrapping up this show. Gil, do you want to do your shout-outs?
Shout out to Alex and Matt for recording this evening. Shout out to everybody who was hanging out in the Twitch chat. Will... and I forget everybody else, but shout out to Homer and Prepare to Die Scum for coming over, hanging out, playing some video games, helping me along in Bomber Fest, or Bomb Fest, not Bomber Fest. Shout out to my niece's collegiate dance class. They put on a very good recital. And I thought there was some more, but I'll call that good for this week.
Works for me. Alex? Well, I want to give a shout out. We just finished our landmark episode last week, 650. So I want to thank our community, our fuel to the fire of this trophy horse, for joining us for 651 as we continue to just layer on the bullshit, as Matt might say. You guys are the driving force behind that, so thank you for allowing us and motivating us to do this every Sunday night so we can hopefully give you guys a good show on Wednesdays. Matt, I know you're not a sports guy, but I got to say this. My Kentucky Wildcats now have great wins against Duke and Gonzaga. Last night we came from behind. We were down 16 at the half, and we came back to beat Gonzaga, the number 6 team in the nation, in overtime by 1 point. We lost to Clemson earlier in the week. We were going in without our starting point guard, Lamont Butler, and we were down by 16 and a half. Team could have rolled over. Team could have been like, you know what, we're going back to play Colgate at home next Wednesday. Let's just get through this as best we can. No, the team fought, they scratched, they clawed, and they won against a really good team and a really good coach. So I want to just say, give a shout out to my Kentucky Wildcats for getting their second landmark win of the year. Shout out to my co-host Yield and Matt, as well as Tricky, who could not be here but was most definitely in the chat tonight, lurking around, arguing with Joe about things, as they usually do. Shout out, last but not least, to my loving and awesome girlfriend Ashley. I love you, hun. She just texted me. I don't know what she's texting me about, but yeah, that's going to be the end of my shout outs.
Awesome. And, I don't thank him enough, but I want to give him primetime slot here, is thanking Will for all his contributions to the show between the thumbnails and other things he does. I just want to put him first and foremost. Shout out to Narga, who decided to invade last minute into the show. There you go, Twitch chat. There's my lovely assassin, who Zelda is not happy with right now. Shout out to you gents for recording tonight. Shout out to Tricky for giving me a run of the show tonight. And for, again, giving me a run of the show on your landmark 650. The quiz was fun. I want to do something like that again in the future. Shout out to Will, Tricky, Joe, El Gordo. And I think that was all in chat tonight. And shout out to the Channel 3 community. Make sure to go to channel3.gg for some gaming social media. It's a fun time. Come on by. And finally, shout out to my wife V for everything you do. For those of you who don't know, we did start our own new podcast called A Match Made in Anime. And it's just, we decide to pick a show for each other to watch. So I'll pick a show, she watches it. She picked a show, I'll watch it. And then we go on and talk about our opinions. You know, the goal is to get us to watch animes we might not normally watch with each other. So go look for that. It's on Spotify right now. We may branch out at some later point. But with that said, I will wish everybody a good night. This was episode 651. Thank you, everyone. Trophy Whores ejecting.
See ya.